Hello, all you positive heads out there. It's so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we are super happy to have you here, and we just ask that you bring an open mind and heart to your listening experience and to be prepared to explore vantage points that I'm convinced will help shift or solidify your current understanding of the ultimate nature of reality in a way that is extremely empowering. Speaking of exploring powerful perspectives, I'm super excited to announce the release of my very first book, The Golden Key: Modern Alchemy to Unlock Infinite Abundance. If you're ready to alchemize the circumstances in your life so that your abundance expands to an entirely new level in 2021, head over to goldenkey.gift to download the audio or ebook as my gift to you by using the code POSITIVEHEAD. All right, all you positive heads, welcome to another daily dose of soul food served up hot and fresh from my heart and mind to yours, along with my co-host, Dalien. Yeah.
At it. That's awesome.
How you doing today, Dalien?
I'm good.
Me too. Life is beautiful. So, well, what do we got exciting to talk about and to share with the good folks listening today?
Let's just go for this, right? Let's just dive right in.
Dive right in. Bam.
Yeah. Boom.
Okay.
What you got? You got a story? Yes.
Mysterious story of the day.
Yes. Let's talk about I'll intro my story a little bit with one fun fact that I was just telling you about that I learned. Our Milky Way galaxy is located in a cosmic superstructure, I guess you could call it. That's called the Laniakea supercluster, right?
Mm-hmm. So
this story that I got from EWAO.com is about the Great Attractor, Brandon. Mm-hmm. This is an unknown force. I'll just read you real quick from the article here.
Okay.
An unknown force which has been dubbed the Great Attractor is pulling our galaxy and everything around it towards a specific point in space, located approximately 250 million light years away.
Wow.
Yeah. Basically, the Great Attractor is considered by researchers as a gravitational anomaly located within the vicinity of the Hydra Centaurus supercluster at the center of the Laniakea supercluster. So it's basically at the exact center of the supercluster where we're located, right?
So you've got our galaxy, which is in a cluster of other galaxies, which makes up our neighborhood, essentially, in the cosmos, galactically speaking, and this is at the very center.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah, so let me read you another quick little thing that I thought was interesting. Adding to the mystery is the fact that the Great Attractor happens to lie in a direction in the sky referred to as the zone of avoidance. Towards that direction, there is so much dust and gas that our satellites and telescopes can't see very far into the visible spectrum.
Wow.
Yeah, the article goes on to talk about how they've they started to identify this whole thing, along with it mapping out all of these, superstructures and all that decades ago, right?
Yeah.
A thing that I thought was interesting, Brandon, is also that I saw in this article, they talk about it later, but this whole region of the structure is very dense with galaxies, right? And the thing that I saw yesterday on my dig feed that I thought was really interesting is that I didn't read the article, but I saw that they were referencing an extremely dense zone of galaxies. So it may have been the same thing, but the thing that was interesting is that they said there's a high probability that there's going to be, if there's anywhere, in the universe, any kind of intelligent alien life, it's probably going to be located in this region of the sky where there's like an incredibly dense concentration of galaxies, right? Mm-hmm. So I thought that was really fascinating. And then, of course, now I go and read today, find this article about the Great Attractor, right? Yeah. So and of course, they reference another thing that's pretty fascinating too. I guess there's another possible, even bigger Great Attractor that's pulling our cluster towards another structure. So wow. It's just, the scale of all these things is mind-boggling, and it's all pretty fascinating for sure.
Yeah, it's there's so much to for us to still learn. It's just a fascinating, unknown out there, and we're just, as slowly but surely little bits and pieces of information come in, it just gets more and more magnificent and certainly stranger than reality is stranger than fiction. So
yeah. It's nice to get a little reminder in your daily life that there's so much more to life than meets the eye, really. And it's good for people who are beginning to sort of open their minds to a lot of this stuff to really remember that there's always a lot more than meets the eye, not just out there in the whole universe at large, you could say, but really in our daily lives. So
Yeah, so what I'd like to talk about a little bit today, or a lot of it today, is something that we touch on a lot, and that is the power of living in the heart and being heart-centered. It's something that doesn't get near enough attention in my humble opinion, which is why I reference it a lot. And it's, of course, something that I'm learning to do more and more as someone who's always been very analytical and, in my head a lot, so to speak. The last couple of years of my life, I've really been trying to focus a lot more on being heart-centered and living in the heart. And one of the ways, of course, I've talked about doing that is to actually use breathing techniques and literally focus your energy, moving it down from your head, where typically is like our center of gravity, so to speak, within our own bodies, and move it into the heart center. And then how much more expanded and capable we become to deal with the stresses of life and so forth. And so I think it's something that's often overlooked, and it's such a simple tool. It's kind of like, in my opinion, it's like putting yourself back in the driver's seat, so to speak. You're driving with the head. Everyone thinks you're supposed to be steering with the head, but actually, and you can steer with the head, and there's some pros and cons to that too. But really, the ideal lane to be driving in is the heart, right?
Yeah.
And so that is what I'd like to expand on a little bit today. And that leads me to the positive pondering breakdown of the day, which is this quote. My aim is not to outsmart my enemies, it's to out-heart them. And I came up with this quote, and I'm not just referring to anyone who's opposing you, an enemy or a foe, necessarily as another person, although it can be. It's also referring to the enemy, within your mind, your own, the dark side of ourselves. But when it comes to interacting with other people and, foes maybe that are opposing you at work or in personal relationships or whatever it may be, anyone who's challenging you, and we all have those people who come into our lives that are challenging us, so many people are so lost in how do I outsmart this person? How do I trick this person or get the best of them with my mental, sparring and so forth, which is something I know I've been enveloped in doing many times in my life. And now as mentioned, I'm constantly focusing on, instead of what it is that they're doing or not doing or what they should be doing or how they wronged me or how, they owe me or any of those things, moving into my heart and thinking, what would I do? If I was completely coming from the heart and I truly believed love is the answer. Now, what is the question? And that was the space from which I was always communicating and interacting and dealing with the problems and challenges and people that present challenges in my life. What would I do? And I noticed that it's quite different than what I would have done years ago when it was all about separation mentality and how I have to prove that I'm right. We're always so caught in this game of justifying our perspectives and why we're right and why someone else is wrong. And this is how we win the argument and get what we want. And I'm suggesting to transcend all of that. As opposed to, would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? And that's what this is all about. Not outsmarting your enemies to out-heart them. And like I said, that goes for external challengers or people that present challenges into your life, and it definitely goes for the mind, or when the mind can take you to a dark place, or the ego self, the ego part of the mind, which is EGO, everybody's greatest obstacle. It's telling, it's constantly thriving on separation mentality and why you deserve this and why they're wrong. And if we can just start focusing on not needing to be right and proving that we're right, but rather dissolving. Our focus becomes dissolving the tension. How do I ease the tension by bringing love to the situation? And that is moving into the heart center. And when you move into that heart center and you're operating from this place, it changes everything. It really does. You graduate, so to speak, as a human, I believe. And in that graduation, it now attracts many more heart-centered experiences and interactions because you're vibrating on a certain frequency that matches this love vibration that is, the vibration of the source from which we all emanate. God, your higher self, love, consciousness, higher consciousness, whatever you want to call it. It is playing in this stream. And if you get in that stream and your job is always to just get in that stream, I don't believe you can ever lose, no matter how it appears on the external scorecard of the ego and in the default world.
I love it. I think that you said it in perhaps slightly different words, but I love how you referenced that the heart is the healing salve or the antidote to the ego run out of control, right? It's exactly what our world seems to need so bad right now. Of course, I agree so much with everything you said and everything to do with the heart and the heart's intelligence, emotional intelligence, being the thing that is going to hopefully take over really now,
Right.
Really, we're swinging back to that. You could call it opposite, but it's really a complementary thing to the mind and brain and all of that.
Absolutely. So what I would like to do, as we always strive to do on this show, is to introduce any elements of scientific backing that, goes along with some of these more heartfelt and feeling concepts. And what I would like to do now is play a clip from a guy named Howard Martin, who is one of the, he's a part of the HeartMath team. I don't know if you guys are familiar with HeartMath. You can check him out at heartmath.com. It was founded, 20, 30 years ago.
Didn't know about
25 years ago as a nonprofit. And then, they started bringing different training in regards to, it's all centered around the power of the heart and how to, move into a heart space and kind of teaching people about this power. And then they have technology pieces that help with monitoring, improving a lot of this stuff. What happens when you're in a stressful state to the heart and what happens when you're in a peaceful state and so forth. So it's very fascinating. And what I would like to do with this gentleman, he's one of the original leaders who helped the founder of HeartMath, and his name is Howard Martin. This is a talk he gave at TEDx, a TED Talk in Santa Cruz. It's called Engaging the Intelligence of the Heart, and you can find this on the TEDx Talks YouTube page. Take a listen to Howard Martin.
Well, thank you very much for the warm welcome. It's an honor and a privilege to be here in my home community, talking about the thing that means most to me, which is my heart. And this journey goes back a long way for me now, over 40 years. I started when I was 3. But a long time now. And it started with a couple of realizations. When I was a young man, I realized that life for me had to be about continuous growth. That was what was most important. That seemed to be what life was about, what everything around me was trying to do, whether they were conscious of it or not. And I also realized that life had to be about service to others. That whatever you gained, you needed to find a way to give it. It was an incomplete feeling or incomplete circuit if you didn't give back something from what you gained in your life. And that process led me to a discovery of heart and an exploration of heart, which has been my life's work. But enough about me, except one more thing I should tell you, and that is that I've lived here proudly in Boulder Creek now for 21 years, but I'm originally from the South. So I think it's an important time to be alive. We've reached a critical juncture where humanity is making choices, where there's a revolution unfolding socially, spiritually, consciously, all kinds of different ways it's happening. And this year, this very year that we're in right now, is a very important choice point year. We are making decisions today that are going to affect our future for a very long time. Those choices will affect our individual lives, our own fulfillment, and then the future of many, many things in the world. And I think that's what a conference like today is all about. It's people coming together to share new ideas, to help us all make the choices that we need to make. In the context of these changing times, we face challenges, but we also are finding solutions. And one of the things that's emerging in the middle of all this is an intelligence we've had for a long time, that we access with some consistency, but usually not with regularity, something we've all heard about, something we all revere when we really make contact with it, and it is the intelligence of the heart itself. And heart math does a lot of things, but if I look at it simplistically and say, what are we really doing there? We're really exploring and discovering new things and then passing on information about the intelligence of the heart. And when I speak about the intelligence of the heart, I'm talking about this aspect of us we have inside that goes right down to the physical heart, where we now know new things about our physical heart we've never known before. And I'll share some of those things in just a minute. But beyond the physical heart, we have a lot more going on in regards to what heart really is. It is a source of wisdom and intelligence within us. It's high speed, it's intuitive, it's discriminating. It's that place where our authentic self, our really core of ourself, emerges from. It's the birthplace of emotions that we revere the most in our lives. Love, care, compassion, appreciation. Those kind of emotions long, long ago associated with this word heart. As I said earlier, when we access this part of ourselves, it gives us greater discrimination over things, a new ability to see into ourselves, our world, and to others. It is that place we access when we are able to do what we usually can't. It's really our own source of self-security, the place we go to when we need to find answers to things. It's where the hero within is born from. And what I like to think about heart, as I've gone through my life trying to discover more about it, is it really is my own best friend and my most reliable guide to making decisions big and small. To this point, I've been talking, I guess you could call it, philosophically inspirational about heart. And you've heard these things before. At Heart Math, we've done lots of scientific research to look at heart in a different way and to unfold a new understanding of heart that gives us more respect in it. And to do that, we've used science. We've discovered a lot of things about heart. The heart is, in fact, a lot more than a blood pump. It sends powerful commands to the brain and to the rest of the body. It does it in 4 ways. There's a neurological communication, which Doug mentioned. Heart has its own very complex nervous system, sending information to the brain and the head. Brain sends information down to the heart. Heart sends information back to the brain. Conversation happening all the time. When researchers map out the neurological traffic in our bodies, they clearly see that the heart is sending a lot more information to the brain than it ever gets. If you placed your finger on your wrist, you would feel your pulse. That's a wave of energy created by the squeezing of the heart, pushing the blood through the veins and arteries. It's called a blood pressure wave. It travels through the entire body and influences everything, including brain function. In 1983, something most people don't know, the heart was actually reclassified as part of our hormonal system because it produces several very important hormones. One is called atrial peptide. One of its jobs is to reduce the release of a stress hormone called cortisol. I found that fascinating. The heart's producing a hormone to back off a stress hormone. I find that's interesting. Lastly, where it gets actually most interesting to me is the electrical heart. The heart is an electrical organ. It produces by far the strongest source of bioelectricity in our bodies, up to 40 to 60 times stronger than the second most powerful source, which is our brain. This electrical energy permeates every single cell in our bodies and is so strong it radiates beyond the skin out into space. It surrounds us in 360 degrees and can be measured 3 to 4 feet outside the body. This electromagnetic energy in this field changes depending upon our emotional state. This is where it gets really intriguing. If we're experiencing strong negative emotions like anger, frustration, resentment, all those things we can often feel, it produces an incoherent spectra in this electromagnetic field. Conversely, if we begin to experience emotions, the same ones I mentioned before, long metaphorically associated with heart, love, care, compassion, kindness, appreciation, tolerance, patience, non-judgment, those kind of things, it produces a coherent spectra in the field. And we are broadcasting this electromagnetic energy to every single cell in our own bodies and then communicating it outwards into space. So there's an electromagnetic or communication always going on. So now we move in understanding heart beyond biology into physics. How does my field relate to your field? How do your collective fields together relate? How does the field in this room right now, from the accumulation of association with each other and all the great speakers, how does that field relate to the fields of the earth itself? And these are the new things that we're exploring in heart math today. We can measure some of this by looking at what's called our heart rhythms. The medical term is heart rate variability analysis. Didn't I say that good? I'm almost turning into a Californian. Heart rate variability analysis. What that means is our heart rhythms. It's different than heart rate. Timing between heartbeats changes between every single heartbeat, and as you map this out, very complex patterns emerge that show you a lot about what's going on in the body, about our physical health, and about the quality of heart-brain communication. In the top view, you see 200 seconds of data across the horizontal axis. You see beats per minute on the vertical axis. In the top view, we have someone in HeartMath research labs experiencing the feeling of frustration. What happens is their heart rhythm patterns become very jagged and irregular, all over the place. It's not good for our physical health, and it actually sends signals to the brain that begin to shut down the higher perceptual centers in our brain. It's called cortical inhibition. The bottom view is the same person. A few minutes later, what have they done? They've shifted from feeling frustration to feeling a heart-related emotion, appreciation. Now you see the smooth sine wave-like pattern. This is what high performance looks like. This is what high-quality communication between heart and brain looks like, is when you see that sine wave-like pattern. This is really good for our health, and it sends a signal to the brain that opens the brain up. It activates higher perceptual centers in the brain. It's called cortical facilitation. We have access to our higher thinking capacity, and that's where we solve our problems, isn't it? All this relates to changes going on in heart, not just in brain. So the old term that we've all heard, a change of heart changes everything, takes on new understanding. We took it another level, and now what we're doing at HeartMath through the Global Coherence Initiative is we are trying to engender and then measure global coherence. What we found is that there's an evidence of a global effect when a large number of people create similar outgoing emotional waves, whether stressful and incoherent or positive and coherent. There's a global effect when a large number of people are experiencing something similar emotionally. When there's a natural disaster of some kind or very bad news, don't you kind of feel that in the air? Don't you sense a ripple of energy that's going around the world as people begin to pick up on it through the news and that sort of thing? Well, that we're finding is true. There's a global effect depending upon what humanity is feeling emotionally. We have a hypothesis that strong collective emotional intention has a measurable impact on the Earth's geomagnetic field and ionosphere. These are protective layers around the Earth. They're part of the Earth as a living system. They protect us from incoming solar radiation, cosmic rays, solar flares, and things like that, and they are part of the Earth. What we believe is that mass human emotion interacts with these fields. There's a lot of research that's already been done showing that these fields affect us. Changes in health, changes in social behavior, a lot of things are being tracked now to changes in the Earth's energetic fields. If they're affecting us, our belief is we're affecting them. And to begin to look at this and to see if this is true and to see if this hypothesis is real, we've started the Global Coherence Initiative, and part of that is we are installing sensor sites around the world, very sophisticated sensors that measure subtle changes in the Earth's energetic fields. We have a sensor in the Santa Cruz Mountains. We have one in Saudi Arabia. We have one in the United Kingdom. We will have one in New York State this month, and then next fall we have one going in New Zealand. Ultimately, we will need 12. And what we're doing is experimentation around looking at changes that go on in these fields and trying to correlate those with changes that are occurring in society, changes that are occurring in the overall emotional state of humanity itself. If this works, we will have proved that all of our thoughts, our feelings, our prayers, our intentions, all of that is more real than we ever believed before. And thank you. We're kind of listening in for the first time to the brain waves and heart rhythms of our planet. And what we want to do with this is not just to prove scientifically that these things exist, but to bring people together, to use the power of our hearts, the power of our love, our care, our appreciation, and our energetic intention to create positive changes in our world and facilitate this new wave of revolutionary thinking and revolutionary living that we're on the threshold of. Thank you so much, and take care. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a fascinating talk. I love Dalien, giving the scientific explanations that help to support a lot of these concepts. It's funny because it seems like we're coming back around to what philosophers knew a long time ago. All the way back to Aristotle. He said, "Educating the head without educating the heart is no education at all." And
yeah, really good quote. Wow,
yeah,
that's awesome.
Really great quote. And when you look at that, the time since Aristotle, however many thousands of years ago, and we got lost in the ego, we got lost in the mind, and now it seems with people like Heart Math and many others, of course, that are starting to teach this sacred power of the moving into the heart. And I've mentioned this before, and Howard mentioned it as well. A lot of people aren't aware that there's more conversations going from the heart to the brain than the brain to the heart. It's sending more sends way more info to the brain. Well, why would that be if it's not a super important part of steering this bio bodysuit that we're all up and about in? And he talked about so many interesting facts, some of which I wasn't aware of. With heart being part of the hormonal system and how it actually helps to offset stress hormones and so forth. And, the bioelectrical energy is 40 to 60 times more powerful than the brain. And of course, it's extending outside of the body. And when it's, measured and outside of the body, it's incoherent. And when you're angry or sad or anything like that, it's in a negative state, it's incoherent. And when you're in a loving state, it's very coherent. And, it's just a fascinating bit of evidence to kind of prove what Aristotle knew all those years ago.
Yeah. No, I do love how he also does reference, the fact that we have long really ago associated a lot of these positive emotions and really these idealized concepts. Really, you could say the best part of ourselves, or, how we see ourselves, as having to do with the heart. We associate all those qualities with the heart. But I think that I also find fascinating is that, that's the relationship between those two aspects of the self, or two organs of the body, that's so crucial to our well-being, the mind and the heart, right?
Yeah.
And how they're sending signals to each other. Of course, that fascinating factoid about the heart sending so many more signals to the brain than it receives from the brain.
Yeah.
Extremely fascinating. But I love really the whole just a concept of that duality, where the mind, of course, has its own important place and, role to play here, but are finding out that the heart, there's just so much to the heart.
It's really the captain of the ship.
Right. And it's qualities that we have, like you said, intuitively understood, or sometimes like Aristotle just, very clearly knew. But the one other thing that I was going to comment on that I thought was kind of cool is the fascinating little, even like kind of encoded sort of a language clue as to what's going on there with the balance between the heart and the mind, with Heart Math, HM, Heart Math, right? And then there's the gentleman Howard Martin, HM. So it makes me think of the letters HM, and those two could be heart and M, mind, heart, mind. So it's just like,
Ah, cool. Good observation there, Dalien. And then of course he touches on the, I think they called it the Global Coherence Initiative. And we've even talked about that before, where when there's events around the world, random number generators will, actually be affected and so forth. So there's all kinds of elements of proof that, this energy that's emanating from, each and every individual is then collectively affecting everything. And, of course, there's been studies where monks have meditated on reducing crime in DC many years ago. I've talked about that as well before. And, the chief of police said, it was like midsummer. He goes, it's going to take for you to reduce crime. I think it was like 25% or something like that. And I might have my statistics slightly off, but it was significant. For you to reduce crime, he went on TV and said this too, by just meditating in the middle of July in Washington, D.C., by that percentage, it's going to have to be a snowstorm in the middle of July. And by the end of the 8-week or so process, that's exactly what had happened. And, they had achieved exactly what they had said they would achieve because they had done this before and seen the same results consistently. So if you've ever wondered, if all this stuff is, I don't know, maybe it's too woo-woo, there's just not enough proof. There is proof everywhere out there when you're actually opening yourself up and looking. And of course, I know most people listening to this are open enough to be tuning into this frequency, so they probably are more open than others. And it's kind of a shame. Those with the most closed off hearts, locked off in their minds and in their ego self, those are the ones who really, it's all of our jobs to try and reach and to get through to. And of course, Dalien, you and I's approach to doing that, everyone has their own unique way, is through this podcast. And who knows, maybe this particular podcast will reach certain people who are ready to open their heart more, and this will have that effect. And even if it was one person, that would be expand
absolutely.
My heart, like the Grinch.
Right. No, I believe it though, because
his heart grew 3 times that day.
I know. I believe that's really possibly in the works because we're channeling that energy into it. But I do love seeing how there's that shift from cynicism to, like a very kind of open-hearted, realization that, as you said, these things are possibly all real. You use the word proof, but I might use the word evidence. And as you're saying, if you're someone who's like starting to open yourself to a lot of these things, just look at all these facts, right? A lot of fascinating facts that were mentioned in the video that all really add up to a grander picture that's emerging now. And we're seeing how, there's so much to positive emotions that you might have dismissed before. I know I can relate to being cynical, right? But I love the fact that, now we're seeing how emotional intelligence counts for so much. So it's just
I just saw a quote for the first time. Me and my quotes, guys. Sorry, I just love them. They're so smart quotes or heartfelt quotes. They just, I don't know. I love them, and I just saw one
little bite-sized nuggets of wisdom,
exactly,
right?
That move you emotionally as soon as you hear them. George Carlin. I just saw a quote today for the first time, and it said, "Inside every cynical person, there is a disappointed idealist." And I really like that because at the end of the day, that idealist that's the heart-centered version of any person, right? That's someone who's living in their heart, and through experience and life and challenges and difficulties, and it's just that idealist has become more and more cynical until it's just buried deep. But it's still in there. It's still in there for all of us, and we all have to make it our job to save that inner child. That is who you truly are. When you came here, you were your most authentic self. And then you started putting on masks, putting on clothes, scars changed you. And it doesn't have to be that way. Instead, you can, change the way, as he said, also the quote in the talk, a change of heart changes everything. You can change your heart about what those challenges and trials meant to you. And they were actually blessings in disguise designed to spur growth and for you to rise above viewing them as this lump of coal and to actually find the diamond, that is there to be had if you can actually handle the pressure and understand, why the pressure happened actually just to form you into the next greatest and grandest version of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, Dalien, I think that's getting down to it for today. I would encourage anyone out there listening who is enjoying the show, please write us, drop us an email through positivehead.com. We'd love to, we love it when we get questions or feedback or anything like that, or even if it's just to say hi. And if you have a good question, good chance we'll address it on the show. So please be interactive in 2016, people. We want to connect with you. We want to connect our hearts more closely to your own. So,
and we are using the inner tubes to do so. So reach back to us. Exactly.
Well, let's see here. As far as a song today, we tend to do this when we introduce an artist that we like. I figured the other day we played Jonsi or Jonesy or Janzi or however you pronounce it, Jonsi. We're not sure. The Icelandic artist. Mm-hmm. We played a song that was relevant to the topic of the day. And now I'd like to play a song that's actually one of my favorite songs of all time. I think it's one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard. It's called Grow Till Tall. And this is a song off of I forget the name of the album, but
His solo release was that his first? Oh, okay.
But I don't remember the name of the album off the top of my head, but you can find it easily online if you search Groteltal and Jonsi. Also, before we cue up today's song, as a quick reminder, don't forget to download the Golden Key audio or ebook as my free gift to you at goldenkey.gift using the Golden Key code POSITIVEHEAD. And please, if you enjoy my gift, leave a positive review on Amazon so others can unlock their lives with the help of the Golden Key as well.